takes less energy to kick the electron out.
Any means that you use to keep power is justified, but you'd better use these means.
The ecstasy without any real connection at all.
I think most of us have heard at one time or another the very abstract and...
The significant thing about these pupils is that they are high school students in a high school doing college-level work for college credits. A great deal of what's happening in Pittsburgh isn't being done with mirrors and tape. A new approach to learning is going on in this high school and a number of others around the country. Many educators believe that any subject, properly presented, can be learned at any age. This program, started 4 years ago, called the Advanced Placement Program, was pioneered by Dr. Edwin Fenton of Carnegie Tech.
Recent psychological research has indicated plainly that there's no reason to hold back a complicated mathematical formula or a difficult idea from literature or the social sciences until a student is so-called old enough to manage it.
In looking at Machiavelli's basic political theories,
the high school students taking this college course in European history are not waiting until they're old enough.
how is it possible for an individual to be cruel yet not hated? Nick?
Well, he says that people are much more likely to forget the murder of their father than they are to forget taking some kind of property. So he said that if you have to murder some people, they're always, you can find an excuse. But he said there are many more excuses and many less justified excuses for taking property. And he said you have to be careful of this because people remember this longer than they remember murdering somebody. So he says if you got to get somebody out of the way, don't take his property, kill him.
The wavelength must be in angstroms. Then we multiply that.
The students taking this college physics course are not waiting until they're old enough.
Is 1.60 times 10 to the minus 19 joules. Then you see the joules cancel. The seconds cancel.
I thought we would work through a stanza-by-stanza analysis of Keats' Ode on a Grecian Urn, finally coming to perhaps some new understanding.
Nor are the high school students taking this college course in English literature waiting until they're old enough.
All right. Let's begin right with the first line. Thou still unravished bride of quietness. Do you see immediately any ambiguities, any strange juxtaposition of words in that first line? Sherry?
Still unravished. He's getting into the sexual idea that he brings out later, and the ambiguity and unravished, that it has not quite had the sensual feeling, the pain or the pleasure that could be brought on by this action.
Is there anything else we can attach to the word still? Joel?
It means still, as Sherry did it, in the moment of anticipation. He thinks this is very cool that we shouldn't get to the moment where you have the passion and this sort of thing, because then it passes away, so he wants an eternity.
Okay, fine. How do we explain paradoxes like struggle to escape and wild ecstasy? Sherry?
Well, he's coming in on some specific action that he's going to take up in the body of the poem. I don't want to sound like I have a one-track mind, but he's getting on, he's introducing the sensual idea. When he
This has been a most significant program for the schools, because not only has it enabled high school students to earn college credit, but it's had a profound effect upon the teachers who've been inspired by being able to teach more difficult and demanding courses.
It has to do with the structure of the atom.
Is there a blending here of content and structure somewhere along the line?
What things would be best used for a ruler to maintain his power?
Another Pittsburgh experiment has nothing to do with the gifted, the retarded, the prospective scientist, or the genius English scholar. It has to do with numbers, large numbers. In the nation, 13 million high school students divided by 80,000 high school English teachers. The staggering fact is that there aren't enough teachers to properly handle more than the most basic requirements of high school English, which equals the further staggering fact that more than 1/3 of high school graduates are not prepared for what colleges expect of them, and that these teachers are overworked.
4 years ago, I had a year's leave to teach high school students at Taylor Alderdice High School in Pittsburgh. I taught only 3 classes a day, a remarkably small load. But I was exhausted each evening. The pace of high school teaching is so much more rapid than is teaching in college. This is Miss Stella Price, an English teacher at South Hills High School. Teachers like Miss Price can face as many as 180 students each day. 4 or 5 large classes pouring in and out of the room. Grading essays conscientiously would take her about 8 minutes for each student in each of her classes each week. This is simply an impossible load. No teacher can do it and do it well. Schools all over the country are looking for ways to get around this complex problem of teacher time. One way that seems to work remarkably well is to hire contract graders. A contract grader is not a teacher, but she is a trained college graduate, well qualified to grade high school English themes. In a sense, she is a teacher's helper who takes over the responsibility of grading half the papers written by the students in a specific class. It also permits the teacher to increase the workload of the students by assigning more essays each week.
Now, what do you want me to teach particularly before the next theme is written? Can you single out 2 or 3 things that you think?
Well, as I said, I have those on the content sheet, the predication, the subject and predicates being more compatible, the pronouns, to really stress, I know that you've done this before, but they're still not getting the idea that these have to have definite references.
There's no question that money spent to reduce the loads of English teachers to 100 students a day, or to hire contract graders who can grade half the essays is very well spent. We can see it in the improved work of our students.
I'm going to ask 2 or 3 people then to read their papers for you. Alice, will you read your paper, please?
A boat ride usually follows a routine but exciting pattern. At first, the boat moves along slowly, resisting the water. The bow of the boat...
We must find ways to double the amount of money going into public education if we wish to give our teachers the opportunities to teach creatively and to realize the enormous benefits which can come to them as teachers and which they can give to their students.
They're ready for you to take home with you. The papers for next week are...
There are 10 contract graders in the Pittsburgh program. The experiment is limited to 2 high schools. The fact remains that most teachers must still rely on only themselves to complete the work of the day at night. But where the priceless ingredient of excellence is involved, the work somehow does get done. For this teacher, there is an end in sight. Elizabeth Brown may be lucky.
After retirement, well, my plans are a little vague. I hope to be able to do some substituting in the building in which I now teach. I hope to do 1 or 2 days volunteer work in the YWCA and probably some church work. I may, in the middle of the winter, I may go down and visit a niece I have in Texas, Houston. Outside of that, I'm going to let the plans take care of themselves. See what comes forth.